Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to replace your spark plugs and coil packs on your BMW at home. So this process should apply to most BMWs with an inline 6 engine. So that's this N54, what we're working on today. That's the N55, the B58, the N52, the N20. The N20 is a little easier. The N20 is only 4 cylinders. And then most other models of BMWs. It will be very similar, if not identical. The only difference will be removing the cowl section and the engine cover, but the rest of it is nearly identical. To complete this job, you're going to need a ratchet, an extension, a 14mm thin-walled 12-point socket, a 13mm socket. You're going to need this spark plug gapping tool, and then obviously your new spark plugs, your new ignition coils, and then some dielectric grease. This is a marine one, but it doesn't matter which one, just make sure you have dielectric grease. And then you're also going to need a torque wrench. Alright guys, so before we start removing the plugs and coils, we're going to want to remove this whole cowl section here. That's because the cowl covers up the 5th and 6th cylinder, so if we remove it, we'll have better access to them. And to remove the cowl, it's relatively straightforward. It's just a few fasteners, like clip style. So you just spin them off and they disengage, and then you can pop them off. So using a 13mm socket, you're just gonna go on these clips, spin them around a quarter turn. And then on this side here, it's just this big clip here. You can pop it off with your hands, just like that. And then this air filter just pops right out. You can put that off to the side. And then it's the same thing on the other side. And then when you come to the middle here, you'll see there's this little thing that pokes up. You just push it up and you can slide this clip off. Put that off to the side as well. And then you'll also see on this side here and this one right here, you're gonna do the same thing, half turn until they disengage, and then half turn again. And then you can remove this entire section. So you're gonna replicate the same thing on that side there, and then we can take the entire cowl off. And then if you have your engine beauty cover on, I don't, but it's just this bolt here, this one here, and then there's one right back there. They can just lift the beauty cover off. And then you can see that we have access to all 6 coils. So to remove the coils, all we're gonna do is push up on this clip, and you can see the clip ejects the plug out just like that. And we can do that for all 6, just like that. The back, it's a little tighter, but it's still easy. And we can get them all the plugs off of the coils. And then all we have to do is stick your finger in, and you can pop it off just like that. There really is nothing to it. Removing the coils on these cars is ridiculously easy. Alright, so we're going to repeat the same thing for all the other cylinders. If you feel that these are a little stuck in, a little too stuck, you can grab your extension, plop it through like this, and you can use the extension for extra leverage. Alright, so now we can move on to removing the actual plugs themselves. So these spark plugs are a little different from other makes and models. These ones are much thinner, as you can see, so traditional sockets won't work on these. That's why you need this special 12-point thin-walled socket. So what we do is we just put it in with the extension. You grab your ratchet. These should not be that tight, so you should be able to get them off with just a ratchet. Here, I'll do something too. And you just crank it. There we go. And then spin the rest off by hand. And you can see, comes out just like that. So we're just going to repeat that same process for the other 5 cylinders. Break it free, and then you can spin it off by hand just like that. Here we go. This one's nice and dry. So when you're checking your plugs, make sure the distance from here to here is identical, because if it's too long, it can go and it can hit the cylinder when you go to start your car. So you want to make sure that the plug's distance from here to here is identical. In this case, they are. So if you're doing this job for the first time and your car has the OEM factory spark plugs in it, you're gonna see a plug that resembles this a bit more than this one. So with this one, you're gonna see the distance from here to here is also identical. You can clearly see a difference between them. So for example, these two, you'll see that one is white and one is black. So this would indicate the engine running rich in this cylinder. So for example, maybe an injector was leaking, which was my case. And then this is what a typical good plug should look like, just like that. So you want to inspect this ceramic right here, make sure there's no crack or anything. And then this ceramic up here, same thing, no cracking, no buildup or anything. And then you want to inspect the gap. You want to make sure the gap's not opened up all the way, or if this entire electrode is just missing. But overall, these plugs don't look too bad, other than this one. This one you can see was running super rich. It's completely black. So I replaced all of my injectors already. That's why I'm doing this job. So before you replace your plugs, make sure everything else in your car is in tip-top condition. Alright, so from factory, these plugs come pre-gapped. So you can tell if they're pre-gapped if they have a cover on the electrode here, just like this one has. So if your car is not tuned, you don't have to gap these again. You can just throw them right in. If your car is tuned, you have to make the gap a little smaller, because if the gap is too big, the air pressure from the additional boost can blow out the spark. So making it smaller ensures that the spark won't get blown out and that you won't get a misfire. So I'll show you how you can gap these plugs to the proper spec. Alright, so you can see that these plugs are gapped from factory at about 0.030 inches. So we want them to be 0.022, so right about there. But we can see that it's loose in there. So what we have to do is just knock this electrode down just a hair, just like that. And we can go in and test it again. You see it dropped just a little bit. Alright, so an easier way to do it is by placing this tool right here and then pushing down on the spark plug itself. And then we can test it. You can see that we closed it a bit too much. That's okay. We can just use this tool to open it back up just a hair. And then we can see that it's at 0.022. That's perfect. That's exactly where we want it for a tuned engine. So we can remove this, put it off to the side, and we can do the next one. And there we go. Perfect. Just about 0.022. Alright, so we're going to continue that for the other 4 spark plugs. Alright, so now that your plugs are gapped and ready to be installed, we want to grab some dielectric grease. We're just going to apply a thin coat to the ceramic portion of the spark plugs. This is because the coils output a lot of power, and you don't want that power to be going anywhere other than the spark plug itself. So just putting a thin layer ensures that your spark plugs stay running smoothly, and it'll also help your coils come off of your plugs the next time you go to remove them. It's very simple. You just need a little bit, just like that, and all of the plugs are ready to go in. Alright, so we can grab our extension, put the spark plug in, and put it into the head. So a lot of people say to put anti-seize on these threads. Do not do that, because when you go to torque these down, the anti-seize can act as like a lubricant and it can cause the torque reading to be off. NGK themselves say do not use anti-seize on their plugs because they have this special coating on them. So when you go to install these, do not use anti-seize, especially in BMWs. And then, very simple, you just guide it in like so, and then you just hand tighten it. So make sure you don't use any power tools because you don't want to cross thread these threads. So you just tighten them down until you can't rotate them by hand anymore. And we're gonna do the same thing for the other 5 plugs. All right, so setting your torque wrench to 25 Newton meters. We're gonna start with the first one. With nice even pressure. Just like that. So this spark plug is torqued to spec. And the torque on these plugs are very important because you can see that there's a crush washer on these plugs. You can see that this one has flattened. On the new ones, they're ballooned out. So when I torque them down, they're also going to flatten and seal against the cylinder head. All right, so if you guys don't have a torque wrench, don't worry, because on the box itself, it shows you how you can compress that washer without a torque wrench. So what you're going to do is hand tighten it first, and then you're going to turn it 1/16 of a turn, and then a half turn, and then that should be enough to compress that washer there. So let's go ahead and use a ratchet. So 1/16 turn, and then we'll do 1/2 turn, just like that. And that's torqued down. And then we're gonna do the same thing for the other 3 cylinders. All right, so now that you have all your plugs in and torqued down, you have that dielectric grease on it. You're gonna take your coil, you're gonna put it in like so with this pointing right here. You're gonna get that on, move these wires out of the way, and you're gonna push it down until you feel it click in. So that's clicked in. And then we're gonna take our connector, just like that, and when you clip this down, it locks this connector in place, just like that. Perfect. All right, there we go. And then once we have them all installed, we want to wiggle them around a bit, make sure all the connectors are plugged in properly, make sure all the coils are seated on the plugs. And now we can start up the car and make sure we don't have any misfires or any different codes. All right, so in my case, my car is running smooth, no misfires or anything. But in your case, if your car was misfiring and you had a code scanner, scan the code, tells you which cylinder is misfiring, and you can go ahead and check the coil packs, the connectors, and then if the connectors are all fine, you can go ahead, you can remove a coil pack and you can swap it. So you can swap this one to this one. For example, if this one's misfiring, swap this coil pack to this cylinder, and this one to there, and then you can see if the code transfers from cylinder 2 to cylinder 1. If that's the case, that means you have a bad coil. And then if that doesn't change anything, take your spark plug back out, inspect it, make sure nothing's broken. If it looks fine, again, switch it from cylinder 2 to cylinder 1. And then if the code doesn't follow, then you might have a bigger issue on your hand. But typically, if you just did your plugs and coils and you're getting a misfire, it's maybe just a loose connection or something, which should be a rather easy fix. And then if you don't have a code scanner, let the car run, let it idle, and then you can unplug these coil packs. And you can see if the tone of the engine changes. If it does, that means that cylinder is fine. You're going to continue along until you unplug one and the tone stays the same. That way you'll know that that cylinder is misfiring and you can inspect further. So now that we're good, all we have to do is reinstall the cowl right there, and then we're good to take it on a test drive. And then once you have this in position, just put these latches back, and then you can turn this clip here, just like that. And that's locked in. And then the same thing on the other side, and then that's pretty much it. All right, guys, so there you have it. That's how you replace your plugs and coils in your BMW. It's a very simple process. It literally took me less than 15 minutes maybe. The most tedious part is, of course, gapping those plugs to spec, but it's not too difficult. And if this is the first video you're catching of mine, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel out. And then if you feel like you've learned something new, please drop a like and comment down below. Catch you in the next one. Peace.